Now is it going to work? It says excellent connection. Okay, so you were right. All right. Looks like we got it. Jeez. That was like quite annoying, people. Sorry, everybody. It looks like we had some glitches. Are we back? I think we are.
No, pretty quickly here. I'll be hopefully on there. It
Yes.
says you're live, so yes.
God. Sorry, everybody. It was just like my. It was just like my. Yep, that's me.
And that's how much you're delayed.
Apparently, our router didn't like something that Ian's computer was up to, and everything just went nuts. But I'm here. I'm alive. I'm recovered mostly. I still have a few little glitches happening to my body, but other than that, I'm much better and I'm awake. I had some very weird experiences while I was sick, between seeing things and getting stuck in a second dimensional reality for a while, which was quite odd. Apparently, I'm not the only one that's happened to, so my son said he's had that happen to him. So, yeah, it's like, man. So, we are back and together again. What do we want to talk about now that we're here? Yes. Grumpy Owl, hi. Mary, hi. Ruth, hi. Julia says, woo, glad to be here and see everyone. Waves and smiles happily to hear Siofra's better. Yes, I am so happy to be feeling better. This thing definitely got me good.
Yeah, got the lungs.
My blood oxygen levels are now 99%, so way better than when I went in to see the doctor, and they were down 93 and less. So I'm getting oxygen, which is always a good thing. Can't live without oxygen. I'm addicted completely to oxygen. It's just like, and I'm not going to try and stop it. It's just the way it is. It's like it's a strange thing. Julie says, "Uh-oh, no more video streaming. You froze."
Did you freeze?
I don't know. Julia says I froze.
Well, you're still streaming on mine.
Yeah, I'm still streaming here. Oh well.
Maybe it was just a brief thing or something.
Well, the internet's going to have its glitches apparently.
Yeah.
Maybe it has to do with that solar eclipse or the solar flare that just happened.
I'm getting it since I'm reading it going up and down, so I'm getting it back.
So I'm sorry, Julia. I'm hoping it's just your computer and not the entire internet. Well, we do what we can. Jono says hi all. Hi, Jono.
Hi, Jono.
And Julia says, I can hear you, but no video. Yeah, just like my own. I tell you, technology is sometimes interesting, and it's fun in lots of games, but.
Well, a lot of times I think it's a disconnect between the people who develop all the stuff and the people who use it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there is a serious disconnect between how users think things should work.
Cases, yeah.
And how programmers design them to.
Well, I'll tell you what, I know how to program, and there's a lot of disconnects between what I think is good programming and a lot of the stuff that's out there myself.
Grumpy Owl says, mine's fine from my end. All right, so I'm not freezing everywhere. Yay! Yay to not being frozen. Julia says, gonna reboot this page. If that doesn't work, rebooting. Okay, good luck. And that's what we were doing. We were doing all sorts of weird stuff like that. Grumpy Owl says, might have to refresh the live stream to the others having issues. Snowball Effect says, looks good here. Hi, Snowball. Hope all are well. Yes.
We are well now.
Yes. And I still have a little bit low energy. I have a little bit of gravel yet in my voice. There's still a few things coming up out of my lungs. But hardly, maybe once a day now instead of like constantly. So
I caught it, but I got it very mildly because it never got into my lungs.
thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing was mean. It didn't like me. I don't know, has anyone else gotten stuck in a two-dimensional plane of existence when they were sick? It was like my eyes stopped working, and I suddenly could not distinguish depth at all. So the floor and my knees were at the same height, and everything was like on this 2D plane. And my brain knew that that was wrong, that I was still 3D, but it was very bizarre. I'd never experienced that before. And then all the flashing, my eyes lost their ability to figure out contrast. And so it'd be flashing back and forth between bright and dark. And that was very disorienting, I can tell you. I didn't care for that at all. I was like, I need to go and lay down and close my eyes and stop making my eyes try and work because they're not. And then occasionally I would have some spirit being just sort of pop in suddenly and appear next to me, which was startling as well. Julia says, yes, it worked. And Ruth says, yes, me. So you got stuck in that 2D reality, huh? Yeah. It's interesting, the brain, the way the brain processes information, and then when things aren't working the way they're supposed to. And yeah, it was certainly an interesting experience with all of that. Um, I did have the lavender fairy came several times and filled my room with her fragrance, which is interesting to me. And then my granddaughter's spirit animal came a couple of times. It startled the dog next door, apparently. The dog looked through the fence and saw this giant tiger in our backyard and freaked out and went away. But this has been new for my granddaughter. She hasn't seen her power animal in many years, and it 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 has suddenly started showing up. And so that's an interesting change in our household environment. I've always been able to see hers and Ian's and mine and some of the other people that I know. I've been able to see theirs. And I thought it was interesting on the airplane that I saw everyone's power animal and then I saw an extra one. So I knew there was someone else on the plane with us that had a lemur as their power animal. And I thought that was just so interesting. When the images come through, it's just like um, clear. It's like a drawing. Julia says, well, it did work. It's back to seeing a frozen image, but I can hear the sound, ponders. Ah, computers and technology. But yeah, I remember one of my first actually out of body experiences was when I was little and I had a really high fever. Um, I had the measles, I think, and I remember laying in my mom's bed and then suddenly my nose was like a few inches from the ceiling. And I thought that that was interesting. And then I was back on the bed and the ceiling was way, way far away. And I kept going back and forth between being like right up next to the ceiling and then back down in the bed. I was probably about 5, I think, maybe, when I got the measles. My mother might remember, but it was something like that. I was pretty little. Jono says, I'm glad you're feeling a little better. Being sick sucks, and we missed you. I didn't catch the start of the stream. What was the illness? I had a virus in my lungs. It wasn't COVID, it wasn't RSV, and it wasn't influenza A or B, but it was definitely something that settled straight into my lungs and especially into my right lung. And I actually had gurgling noises in my lung, which I've never experienced before, which was also very disconcerting. All of a sudden, I'm making all these weird noises, and I'm looking up on the internet, like, what does it mean when you can hear your lung making sounds? And yeah, it's a definite irritation of the specific kinds of bronchial things that you have in your lung tissue. And it startled me when I was taking a bath one day because I like to lay with my head under the water and just sort of relax. And it made such a loud sound, it like startled me. And I had to get out from under the water because I didn't like hearing that sound. So that is gone. That sound is gone, which is a good indication. and my doctor put me on an antibiotic after the first week or so of it, and that helped too. So got my immune system functioning properly so I could fight it off. But it's taken a while to get my energy back. There's no doubt about it. Grumpy Al says pneumonia, and that is scary. Yeah, it seemed like it might have been, but they never did take an x-ray to confirm it. And I also had asthma that developed during it. I mean,
Yeah, I think it was pneumonia the way you were. Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty bad. And I had a pretty high fever too. My temperature got up to 102.5, which is like way high, especially for me, because my temperature tends to be lower. But as you age, your body doesn't handle the higher temperatures. If you're 5 years old, 102 is like, okay, no problem. But when you're 74, it is really, really exhausting and your body's not happy. But yeah, the fact that my blood oxygen levels is now back to like 99% or so today. I checked it a couple of times and I'm very happy to see that number. And my heart rate's not too high either. So that's also good. And everything else, I'm sleeping, able to sleep without an issue. So yeah, it's definitely coming back. Still a little bit tired, but nothing like I was. And I can think again, which is also a bonus. It's like nothing you can do sometimes. I watched a lot of documentaries, which is what I do when I'm sick. I don't know why.
Probably because we ran out of all of our fiction movies.
Well, that's probably true too. I was sort of stuck in place there for a while. Aaron says, "Hello, sorry I'm late." Hi, Aaron. And yet, the not being able to breathe was extremely scary. I didn't care for that at all. Ian has an inhaler I used when I was going through that, and it was like things just sort of seized up and stopped. So, yeah, not happy. But fortunately, that doesn't seem to be something that is lasting. It seems to have been just because of my lung. And when I went to the doctor's diagnosis of my right lung was, your right lung is very unhappy. And I'm like, okay, that's just so specific. Jono says, you made it sound like all your spirit friends were keeping you company and giving you love in 2D world. Well, the 2D world just was brief, and I definitely had some spirit friends who were there, and people were sending me energy, and I was accepting the energy. Um, but I had to bring out my special rock one night to make everybody go away because it was getting very confusing in my head. I don't like losing control of my abilities so much. Julia says another thing that we have in common, Siofra, my temperature runs a couple of degrees lower than the norm. And if I do see my temp at the normal for most, then I know mine is a couple of degrees hot already. Yeah, same here. And yeah, it's one of those things. Sundrop says, hey, Schieffer and Ian, hope you're feeling better. I just got home. I'm excited about the new witchy books I bought. I'll share them with you shortly.
Cool.
Yay! It's always good to have new things on the horizon to look at and have fun with.
By the way, I've lost my heart. I've got the key to the True Kabbalah Barton's book. By the way, if you see it.
Oh, you can't find it?
Yeah, I've got the copy on my computer, but I can't find my hardcover book, which I actually prefer for some
Okay, keep an eye out.
purposes. Yeah,
I'll keep an eye out for that.
probably with my
Julia
glasses.
says, oh, great, Sundrop. We were very excited to find out that, what's the name of the show? Outer Range is coming back. So we are rewatching the first season. It's been 2 years since the first season came out. It's like we thought for sure it wasn't coming back. And we like really good quality science fiction kind of stuff. And the acting is phenomenal, and the story is very intriguing and so forth. Outer Limits? No, The Outer Range. It's on Amazon. It's got Josh Brolin in it, and there's like a weird hole in his field that is like a hole that goes through time. So it's kind of intriguing. You're still wondering where he came from. But yeah, it's nice when good quality shows come out. At least keeps us entertained.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how many of you remember science fiction in the 1980s, 1990s, but the 1990s were starting to get okay. But some of the stuff that came out in the 1980s was really bad. Science fiction, until like Star Wars and the Star Trek ones, but even the first Star Trek had its issues, but boy, they had some bad science fiction stuff back then, and just like everything was either, if it was science fiction, it was either
Monster.
a horror show disguised
Yeah.
as science fiction was most of it. Yeah.
Monster horror.
Yep.
Alien horror.
Yep.
Yeah.
With very few exceptions.
That was like that when I was a kid. All
My
of the
God, it's great now. We got all this great science fiction stuff, and I've always was a science fiction fan, but never was it. Movies. I was always books until modern days. All this great science fiction and great CGI on top of it. That really helps. Sorry, not to go off. Didn't want to go off subject.
Well, it is sort of on the subject of expanding your mind and your ideas and your concepts of reality and so forth, which is partly what magic is about.
Yeah.
Being able to kind of unhitch your logical brain to a certain extent. And I think that those kinds of stories help us to imagine things in a different light and imagine new
Well, it's
possibilities.
true. It is good for you in that sense. Yep.
Grumpy Owl says, I started using a smartwatch that tracks heart rate, my sleep, and more. It's warned me before I started feeling it because it detected a heart rate increase. Yeah, I understand that some people have had their lives saved by smartwatches. Julia says that she has Amazon Video since she's an Amazon Prime subscriber. Yeah, I recommend it definitely if you like. I mean, it's a Western, which is not our general genre, but
Yeah,
the
not at
fact
all.
that
But
it's on a ranch doesn't seem to actually matter to us as far as the storyline goes. So, yeah, it's very intriguing. And I
yeah,
kind of find the music choices they have very interesting and unique.
I'm glad you do. I don't like the music choices on that one at all.
Yeah, I'm finding
No,
them interesting and intriguing.
no, not that this is necessarily kudos for the show, but you want a show that had music that I can get behind. That was the new version of the Hellboy.
But yeah, that was
The new
actually pretty
Hellboy
good.
had some music in there I liked and used right and in the right places, so I get behind that. But there aren't a lot of shows that have music. I'm mostly old rock, largely.
So Sundrop says, so the books are called The Witch's Feast, A Kitchen Armoire by Melissa Jane Madeira, The Witch's Cookbook by Deanna Huey, and The Green Witch's Coloring Book by Erin Murphy Hiscock.
Cool.
Okay. Well, awesome. I don't know any of those authors, but you can let us know what you think of them.
Well, are they? The question I have is after these, are they? These are actual cookbooks. It sounds like, huh? Witch's Cookbook and the Witch's Feast, the Kitchen Armoire.
Yeah, it sounds like
Sounds pretty
it's going
positive.
to have
Yeah.
like recipes in it and stuff, and probably associations, I would imagine, with different foods and herbs and things like that, magical associations,
Of
if
course,
it's
a
witch
cookbook
oriented.
doesn't necessarily have to be an actual cookbook, because
True.
there's like I have an electronics cookbook.
It doesn't have
You
any
know,
cooking in it.
I'm not boiling resistors. No.
No. Sundrop says yes, cookbooks and coloring book. All right.
Cool.
That's fantastic. Keep your hands busy. Keep your mind working. Keep the knowledge coming.
That's right.
Sundrop says recipes.
I just wish I had a good book reader now.
Ah, instead of your laptop.
Well, the laptop is fine, but sometimes I want something I could just carry around easier, like I carry a paperback book around, like
Right.
a small.
Like a tablet.
Yeah, something bigger than a phone, but smaller than a computer.
That would be a
Keyboard and
tablet.
everything. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Kindles and things are still pretty spendy.
Yeah. So I'm actually feeling well enough. I I did a distance Reiki session the other day, and I have a few more planned this coming week. I'm trying to make sure that I don't overload myself. It's amazing how much energy 30 minutes of total concentration actually takes. Because when I do it, that's what it is. It's like 30 minutes of solid focused concentration on the single individual.
Well, it is, and it's actually, until people try it, they don't realize. That's why Barden's stuff starts out pretty easily at the beginning. Like create mental silence for 5 minutes. But
Yeah, being able to focus on an individual for that period of time.
yeah,
Julia says, I've got a book or two by the last author, need to look into them again, but the coloring book I'd have to skip since I get Kindle books usually.
yeah.
I can just see me coloring on the monitor screen. Oh, yeah.
I use a
But if you have
crayon.
a
You could probably
Well, if you
get
have a
back off there.
printer, I mean, I know that you can send things to have them printed up to Staples through the internet, like through an email or whatever, and it's like 20 something cents, I think, a page. So you could actually print up the coloring book. So then you could use actual, you know, crayons or
Well, yeah,
pencils or whatever, not have to
yeah.
worry about destroying your machine. Marty says, I also use peppermint extract from time to time, a little splash in a glass of water. Yeah, I actually did a lot of peppermint tea during this lung thing, and it really helped smooth the sort of like thin the mucus and make it move, and it helped quite a bit. So I did a lot of that. I also did echinacea and golden seal and elderberry as far as the herbs stuff went. Um, and, it's like I kept my kids alive using plant medicine when I lived in the middle of the bush and didn't have a doctor around. So I'm sort of used to the idea of not going to see a doctor. So yeah, I thought it was a good idea though that I go this time, and I'm getting better at knowing when's the time to go see the doctor and when's the time that I can just deal with it on my own. Julia says I should get. Oh, Grumpy Al says I got an older Kindle. Amazon has given the option to copy and paste your books since mine isn't supported anymore for syncing.
That's another thing that drives me nuts. Not supported anymore.
Yeah, you
Like,
get something too old and they're like, yeah, we're sorry, but you got some ancient technology in
it's
there. It's
like,
only 5 years
I
ago, but
like ancient. I got an old NAT amplifier that must be from about 1988. I've had to repair it a couple times. That thing keeps working great. It'd be a pisser if that thing just suddenly became obsolete and I couldn't use it.
Julia says I should get a printer for sure. This isn't the only time it would come in handy. Car repairs tires are eating up things here, though. Yeah, we
And
understand
printers.
that.
We got a problem with printers because we got a printer, but the cartridges always go
Try
bad
out.
and dry up before
Yeah,
we don't print out enough to use up our cartridges. So
not anymore.
yeah, as soon
When
as
we
they
were
dry
doing
out,
circle stuff and we were, doing
well, we
public
had
rituals and
business and
everything,
everything
we
else.
were and had our business, and I was like billing insurance companies and so forth.
But
It
nowadays,
never was a problem.
printer cartridges are way too expensive for doing 2 or 3 pages than to have the thing dry up. Next time you use it, you need to buy a new one. Yeah, that's an issue.
Sundrop
Sure.
says the books are big and thick, 231 pages and 166 pages. They were very expensive for me, but I bought them while I can. They'll stay handy for a lifetime.
Yes, I have some very old books that I bought new too.
Shay says, hello, Ian. Hello, Shifra. Good to hear you both. Hi, Shay. Marty says, I've tried all those things in the past. I was a smoker at one time. That's one thing I've never been as a smoker, and I'm very happy about that because I can't imagine what my lung would have been like had I ever been
Well,
one.
I was, and I'm glad I quit like a
Yeah.
long time ago, many years ago.
There's some things that are just very hard on the body, and the body tries to tell us that, but then we
Yeah,
override it.
well, yeah. And I still smoke pot though. But it's not as hard on your body as tobacco, but still, I prefer to ingest it, but I still smoke enough because ingesting it, you kind of got to pre-select your dose, and then you can't adjust it. If you're smoking, you can kind of adjust your dose. But if you take it and you take too much, then you're just kind of stuck with it till it's out of your system, and it takes longer to get out of your system. So
Well, knowing your
yeah,
own body is important, and
Yeah.
Knowing what works for you. And a lot of people had some advice that, things that worked for them, which I know that they're trying to be helpful, but like I don't do Eastern herbs because, for one thing, when I started studying herbology, I had a choice to make. Was I going to study Eastern herbology or Western herbology? And I decided to study Western herbology because I live in the West and I wanted to have plants that I might be able to find in my lawn or out the back door or going through the woods, something that was readily available and that was sort of energetically matched to where I lived in that sense. And so I studied that, and I know which things work for me and which don't. Um, and it is, certainly an interesting field altogether, and there's a lot of different approaches to it. But if you know your body and you know yourself and you know what works and what doesn't work, then you can kind of narrow down the field of what you try.
Or if you get lucky and a plant tells you, I
Yeah,
wish more plants would tell me more things. I've only had that happen a couple times, but it's
I
pretty
had a
cool when it
fireweed
does.
plant tell me to eat it for a while when I lived up north. And I made sure it wasn't toxic, but I was running around eating fireweed flowers all over the place for a while. Not sure exactly what it was good for, but they 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 definitely helped quite a bit. And I try to keep things as simple as possible as far as what I put in my body. So I'm very sensitive to my brain chemistry. Definitely is very responsive to whatever I use, and so I am mindful of what I put in it. But, there are some organisms out there that are just their thing is just trying to take you down. So,
Yeah.
Grumpy Al said, I do the same with appliances I use too, Ian. I will pick up stuff people throw out and fix them to use myself or sell. Ian is really good at recycling things.
Yeah, but a lot of times I get tired of it sometimes because you get something that's old enough, then it just breaks down, breaks down, breaks down. You get tired of fixing it after a while. Get stuff that's too old. But I do use like some of the electronics and stuff, like that old NAT amp. That's every bit up to today's, standards. You'd have to pay a lot of money to replace it with one that works that well. So hey,
Some things are
if
worth
it
it.
was built right to start with, absolutely, yeah.
Sundrop says, this food looks so good in this cookbook. Marty says, they add a lot of chemicals to cigarettes and medicinals to keep them alive, to keep smoking. This is true. Jana says, sorry to turn your illness into a learning moment, but what mundane and magical stuff did you reach for over the last couple of weeks? Well, I had some stones that I used. I used a sulfur stone. I was attracted to it for helping to clear things out. I love how it looks, the crystallized version of the sulfur and the yellow little crystals that it has was pretty interesting. And of course, my
So you've
usual
got
go
one.
to.
You've got
Yeah,
like a sulfur stone.
yeah, I have
Okay.
a piece of
'Cause I
sulfur.
got all our powdered sulfur too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but powdered sulfur, not the same. I didn't want to eat it.
Yeah, we got smoked out once with powdered sulfur when we attended a witch's ceremony
That was a
here in town.
Halloween
Yeah.
Samhain ceremony. Someone thought they would banish all negative beings from their garage by trying to kill us.
They banished everybody from the garage by burning all the sulfur. Wow,
Oh my, that was not
that's not
good.
something to throw a couple of handfuls on your
And of course, the things that
charcoals.
I know about you know uh, natural medicine and so forth, I used. Like I said, I did golden seal and echinacea and elderberry, um, and something else. Those are plants that I know work well for me and help to support my immune system. So, and I also did heat, heat on my chest, just standard kinds of stuff, and accepting healing energy coming from other people and the spirits that were trying to help that kept coming around. So, the fairy was definitely there. I find that fascinating when she is in my room because I don't have a diffuser or an aromatherapy thing going on in my room at all. It's just a room. I don't do stuff like that with it because I have a sensitivity to scent. And I'll lay down in bed, and all of a sudden, the room will smell so strong of lavender. It's like somebody just put it right up under my nose. So I always know when she's around. She's the one that comes most often, is the lavender fairy. But then there are a couple of others. One that smells like vanilla, another one that smells like musk. Is it? Um, yeah.
Press it back. Is that how you
Things have been growing and getting wet while we were not feeling well. But yeah, so taking care of myself and not overtaxing my magical side at the same time too. It's like I know that I'm not capable of doing something. I thought about using a couple of my wands, but I decided against it at the time because I had other things that were working and that were helping. And staying alive was definitely my focus. I know some people were quite worried about me, and especially since I had that experience a few years back where I kept trying to cross over, and they kept bringing me back and told me that they couldn't bring me back again. So um, I was very mindful of not going during this, no matter how I was feeling. And it's like, nope, staying with my body and not leaving and going to check out the pretty things that were floating around. Uh, and just letting myself rest and not trying to push myself to doing something that was going to like bring it all back. And I think that's difficult for a lot of us is because like we start to feel a little bit better, so we want to jump back in and just start doing things. And yeah. So that would be what I would say. Sundrup says, by the way, I love your veil head cover. I wore mine today. Thank you. Goofy Head says, hello. Hi, Goofy Head. Grumpy Al says, there's people out there that throw away new stuff because they don't know about the loose wire in it. My boyfriend gets parts for his computer this way. Always clear your hard drive before disposal.
Yep.
Yeah, FYI. Beth says, hi, everyone. I have my grandson here. So glad you're better, Shifra. Thank you, Beth, and hello to your grandson. It's always good to have younger people on the channel. Any questions he wants me to answer? My granddaughter had some pretty interesting questions while I was starting to get better. She wanted to talk more about natural authority and try to understand that concept better, so that was a good conversation. And she was worried that I would think it was a stupid question, but I don't think it is a stupid question. I think it's an important question, and it's hard to explain what you mean when you talk about natural authority. Um, it's not an ego thing, but yeah, so I'm very glad I'm better. Julia says that Grumpy Owl will definitely clear things off if I can when a hard drive arrives or dies, or destroy the drive. Maniac will grin. Oh, hey there, Beth and grandson. Waves to both. Grumpy Owl says the deep sleep phase is supposed to be when our body strengthens our immune system and fights against infections. Yeah, and that was part of the problem because I could not sleep for about a week, I'd say. Um, I, trying to find a position to sleep in and not go into paroxysms of muscle spasms and coughing. It's one of the reasons why my brain stopped working very well, and I knew it. I mean, I could tell that's what's happening. So, yeah. So that's one of the things. The last 4 nights, I've been able to sleep through the night, and I'm getting very, restful sleep, and that is helping a great deal. The time when I left and almost didn't come back, I hadn't slept for 10 entire days. So the brain does some interesting things when it has no sleep. It wiring gets odd in there. Grumpy Owl says, yeah, just get a Torx screwdriver and take it apart.
Yeah, I do that with everything. When we first got together, Shifra was kind of surprised as I was thinking of the TV thing.
I know.
How,
What
how
you
you,
were
how
thinking
you
about.
put that? Yeah.
Yeah, we bought our very first new TV ever, and I came home from work, and Ian had it apart. in the living room, and my brain is going like, there's a big sign on the back that says if you open this up, you're just destroying your warranty and stuff. And I'm thinking, oh no, now what if something goes wrong? We're out of luck. And Ian says, well, I just don't like how they set the color at the factory, and I'm fixing it. And of course, he had worked on computers and on televisions and all sorts of things in the past, so he knew what he was doing.
I did. I fixed it too.
And he did. He fixed it.
I didn't have to take it back and return it.
Yep. We did not have to. It lasted as long as it was supposed to. Probably a little bit better than
Well,
it was supposed to.
left it until we sold it. We ended up selling it. It's still working when we sold it.
Yeah. And so it is always, though, interesting when you suddenly find yourself with someone who can do that kind of thing.
And she gradually got used to me taking anything and everything apart.
Yep, because he knows how to put it back together. Except for that one thing that every time you fixed it and put it back together, then it would find something else to break. So he destroyed it. He decided that if he didn't destroy it, he'd be fixing that thing forever. So he took it outside and took a sledgehammer to it or something.
Yeah, it was. Well, it was a really expensive, really good, very old Pioneer tape deck. Back when Pioneer US stuff made stuff used to be really good. And since about 1980 or thereabouts, it turned to crap and has been crap ever since. The Pioneer stuff in general here, but this was a good one. And I got it for almost nothing, and it just kept breaking down and breaking down.
Yep.
Yep, drove me nuts.
Sometimes you have to know when to
I
quit.
unfortunately, I have this thing where I'm almost obsessive compulsive about things. Sometimes about repairing them, and so I can't stop. And I kept repairing it over and over again. Yep.
It would work for 5 minutes and then something else would
That
happen.
was a failure of me controlling myself, but it served the purpose. I destroyed it, but I never tried to fix it again.
Grumpy Al says the magnets inside are useful, actually, very strong, and the disc inside is like a mirror. And Marty says, I've had to sleep in my lounge chair in the past, coughs, sinus infections. Yeah, I did some definite sleeping in my chair, although it wasn't ideal. But for a while, it was like, because I was so exhausted from what had happened, I would periodically just become unconscious like that for sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes, sometimes 30 seconds, and then pop back in. So that was rather disconcerting because I got to the point where I could tell when it was about to happen. Like, okay, I'm about ready to go away now. And then poof, I'd be gone. Um, so yeah, it's the body does what it has to try and take care of itself, and shutting you down and stopping what you're doing is certainly one of the things that can happen. And that's the thing is like a lot of times people are always looking for the reason why you got sick. What was it you weren't doing, or how did you cause this for yourself, and so forth. And I think that that is a dangerous path to be taking, trying to make everything in the universe make sense in that way, trying to narrowly define it. Because the reality is there are things out there that are constantly bombarding us. And I was stressed, definitely, and exhausted from the trip to Arkansas and back and the plane ride. And I'm pretty confident I picked it
Yeah.
up on the airplane on the last one on our way back. And my immune system, because of that, was just a little bit low. And I didn't catch it in enough time to boost it. So, not like I was being punished for something I did wrong and the gods are mad at me or
If you feel
something.
sick, go drink a bunch of Jägermeister.
That's got a lot of herbs in it, even though it
Yeah,
tastes
so
like
actually
bleh.
it was, everybody does these Jägermeister bombs and stuff like that with it, but it was made by monks and it was made to keep them healthy. That's its actual purpose. A Jägermeister was made by these monks to keep them healthy. It means master hunter for those who don't know what Jägermeister means.
And
So, yeah.
it has a lot of herbs and stuff in it.
Yeah, 56 specific herbs and things made to keep you healthy, and that's its purpose. So
But like anything else, if you overdo it, it becomes toxic.
yeah, and well, the flavor with that flavor is so strong. I can't see anybody doing anything more than sipping it. I don't get the whole Jaeger bombs and drinking it like that and all that. It's just crazy to me.
Beth says hearts and kisses to Julia. Marty says short naps really helps with energy. Yep. Julia says if I drink Jägermeister, I guarantee you that I'll be sick. Not a cold, but ugh. Marty says I used to drink it in Germany.
Yeah.
Beth says yes, lungs, or hands. Yugoslavia has their version of Jägermeister also, and they use it for medicine. Yeah, it's always funny when I go to the doctor and they always ask the alcohol question, like how many drinks do you have? Do you have like, how many a day or how many a week or how many a month? And I'm putting down, you know, maybe 3 times a year. Because I'm not fond of alcohol, and the only time I will use it is if I think it's going to help me not get sick. That's pretty much it. And I have this desire or need to explain this to people when I go to the liquor store and buy a bottle. I have to tell them why I'm buying it,
Which is
as
funny
if they
because
care, because, they don't care. They just want their money. So I'm trying to stop doing that when I go in and explain to them I'm buying this for medicinal
well, I like
purposes.
telling people that it's medicinal though, because I honestly don't see how people can like get drunk off it, which they do. But I mean,
Yeah.
to drink enough to get drunk off it, it's like no. I drink Jack Daniels or something, but I'm not that fond of Jägermeister.
Beth says, ugh, it tastes horrible. I would definitely have an upset tummy. Julia says, nods in sympathy to Beth. Grumpy Al says, mixing alcohol with energy drinks is beyond dangerous. It should be prohibited in bars and events. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with
That kind
that
of
too.
stuff,
Yeah.
things that hit your system and change it really quickly in different directions is hard on the
Yeah,
body.
and
That's all there is
energy
to it.
drinks with an alcohol, yeah, that's always a really bad idea. Yeah.
Beth says, wine is great for a cough. We used to be able to get elderberry wine, but Ian doesn't respond well to wine or the elderberry wine at all. He doesn't
Oh,
like it, makes him feel nauseous. I liked it, but then we can't get it anymore. So it's
I
like,
just don't like wine in general.
yeah,
Jack Daniels, I drink Jack Daniels. Not a lot though. I'm not a big drinker, but
I
you
haven't
know.
seen a bottle for I don't know how many years. Marty says, ice cold, not too bad. And that's the thing is like everybody has, something that works for them or something they've tried that doesn't work for them. And that's the thing is like we're all different and everyone's system is different. And every time you get sick, it may be different. And what worked one time may not work another. And it's about knowing yourself and paying attention to your body. And it's
Yeah. Well,
what it's trying to let you know what's happening.
I don't know about bacterial stuff, but I know that the Jägermeister helps with stuff or I mean, that is bacterial and stuff. I don't know about
If it helps with
I
viruses.
don't know about viral, but it helps with bacterial stuff. And you think about it, you breathe the alcohol breathes up into your sinuses and helps kill stuff up there, and you breathe it down into you. And I always let it when I'm drinking it for an illness, I always let it go slowly over the back of my throat and stuff, which can burn if you got a sore throat. But yeah, let that alcohol do it and get enough blood alcohol to get just a little lightheaded. Or I think it helps kill them off.
Marty says ice cold, not too bad. Beth says I add sparkling water to it. Julia says, yeah, Marty, because you've partially numbed, froze your taste buds.
It
Marty
actually is.
laughs.
It actually is better cold. We usually end up drinking it warm because, for various reasons, we don't keep it in the fridge anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah.
Anyway, so
Sorry.
that's us
Off of that
taking
subject.
care of ourselves in various ways.
Now chartreuse was made,
It's
and
even got more.
it is so expensive nobody can afford it. I
I
think.
know.
I think last time I looked at like
It's
for
like
a bottle of
$60 a
chartreuse,
bottle.
no, it was like over 100. I think
Oh, depending on the
for a
size, I
bottle.
guess.
Anyway,
But anyway,
yeah,
no, we don't use that because we have to use our money wisely for the most effect. But yeah,
makes me wonder what it tastes like. But
maybe one day. They
maybe.
also have a Damiana wine
I don't
or
know. I don't think I'm.
alcohol.
I don't think I'm willing to pay that much for a bottle of something
And
to
I
drink.
saw the bottle. It's actually a figure of a woman, a large, pregnant kind
Oh
of
yeah, they got those
woman
down it. Yeah.
is what the bottle looks like. And the first time I saw that was at an event, a pagan event, and I saw the bottle and I thought, wow, that's interesting. And so then I actually bought one for one of our May Day celebrations a number of years ago. and took it to the May Day celebration because I just thought it was pretty cool. And Damiana, of course, is a known aphrodisiac, supposedly. So, yeah. So, yeah, certainly ritual use of alcohol has got a long standing tradition, although I tend not to use alcohol in rituals just because my body doesn't care for it.
Well, there's absolutely nothing that requires it. I mean,
Yeah.
there are some
Well, I
aspects
think
like,
they used to use it because alcohol will kill germs and you're less likely to spread diseases if you're using alcohol
well,
than if you're using a regular communal cup. But I don't agree with the communal cup anymore either. We know enough about germs at this point.
yeah.
Modifying how we do rituals is rather important so that we don't make each other sick. And it's like, because, and that's the thing that I didn't understand. I had some problems with a local practitioner when we went to one of her rituals that she planned and she did the communal cup. But since Ian and I were the first two people who did it, I thought, okay, I can do this now because no one else has drunk out of this cup. But then the next time I was going to participate in one of her rituals, I recommended that everyone bring their own cup, so they know it's their germs they're getting and pour it out of the communal vessel into everyone's cup. And I think energetically it works quite well. And then from a safety and health perspective, it works better.
Oh yeah, I
So
absolutely agree
I
with
mean,
that.
we know enough about germs and, bacteria, viruses, etc., and diseases and how they pass and what happens to them and with them and so forth. There's no reason why we can't incorporate that knowledge into the rituals that we plan and consider other people and so forth. So that's why I actually with we always have like a communal meal kind of a thing, and I got into the habit of, when people were bringing in a dish, that they had to put the ingredients that they put in the dish on a index card or something and tape it to the dish so that people could decide whether or not there was something in there that would bother them that they might have an allergic reaction to or gastrointestinal reaction or whatever, and that caught on pretty well. Just that way you don't have to ask everyone exactly what they can and cannot eat when you're planning a ritual. And I always told people too to make sure to bring something that they could eat themselves in case no one brought anything else that they could eat, you know. So having people take care of themselves and then honor each other and not making it a deal. So that way people didn't have to explain to everyone, I can't have this because I've got this, and then get into the obligatory explanation and potential arguments when other people don't believe that's real or whatever. And it kind of like it kind of takes that potential interaction, out of the equation and makes a group ritual a lot simpler to do. So Beth says they still do it in the Catholic Church and Episcopalian. Yeah. Julia says that is how many toasts in heathen osatru is done. You bring your own horn, mug, etc., and the bottle dispenser is blessed, so to speak, then poured out to each person instead of drinking from the same vessel. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And but there are some dying hard traditionalists who don't like that. They don't want to modify what they're doing in order to cater to other people's problems, etc. You know.
Well, in that case, they need to just have a closed group
Well, yeah,
and
absolutely.
stick to it. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're not willing to cater to new people coming in any fashion, then you shouldn't have an open group at all.
Well, and boundaries are important. I definitely have distinct boundaries when we're doing group stuff, and I've never had anyone violate those boundaries for long. I've had a few people try and then they get called out on it. But but having expectations and letting people know what those expectations are when you're planning some kind of a group event is important as well, because if
Hey,
people don't know how to behave.
you're froze.
I am.
Nope, there we go. Nope, it was me. Sorry,
That was you.
my
Okay.
computer.
Yeah, and it's like all those things help make a ritual go smoother because of that. Um, if people think that they can just do whatever they want, then they can act out, and then the group is like left to deal with the aftermath. I mean, even
Well,
when you set out the rules, sometimes people ignore them. I had like a public ritual I did on a full moon in a campground once, and I told everybody who was coming that no drugs were allowed in the ritual. And somebody came on acid, I think. He was completely out of his mind. And of course, the entire ritual was all about him and trying to keep him from going insane, which was very annoying to
yeah,
me because it
frankly,
ruined it for everyone
should have
else.
just been kicked out.
Well, at that point, I felt responsible. I mean, I took responsibility, I guess. I knew it was his own fault, but um, I'm not the kind of person who would just dump somebody who's having a bad trip out on their ass.
Well, yeah,
Um,
but if they knew ahead of time and they had
well,
such
yeah,
a
and I chewed him out pretty well.
well,
I was pretty
that's a
mad.
pretty major lack of respect.
Well, yeah,
Using drugs before going to rituals is a big lack of respect to start with, but especially when they've been told ahead of time not to do that. That's like saying, you know, shove it up yours. I don't care.
this is true.
I mean, I sure wouldn't have put up. But anyway, I wasn't there, so
Well, yeah, this was a spontaneous event with people I didn't know.
yeah.
And I was doing a very basic thing from one of the Starhawks books, which was using your own name as a word of power. And the idea is that each person in the group gets in the center of the circle and everyone chants their name and they chant their own name, sort of claiming their power that way. And that's what freaked him out, that we were chanting other people's names. And it got into some weird religious thing in his head and whatnot. So yeah, but that was the reason why, is because it's like I needed to know where everyone was at, what I'm dealing with and stuff, because it does change the texture of the entire experience for everyone else. And I know how I felt about it, and I don't know how the other people who were there felt about it, but I imagine they were as annoyed as I was.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well, it's then there's that. There's always you get two types of people anytime you're talking about a group situation. You've got a certain amount of people that are serious about the ritual and want to do it. Then you got a certain amount of people who just think it's a big party and want to come to party, and that's
Or they think it's a hoot,
at least
or
that's one
they
of the
don't take it
one of the
seriously.
issues that I've seen a lot of.
Oh, yeah. So Haley says, "What's some kind of magic I can do to stop skeets, a cultural specific word here, like kind of like criminals, from breaking into my parents' cabin?" Well, what I do from a magical perspective, you can make sort of a stay away powder and make a magical barrier around the cabin. You can put things, magical things, in the cabin, cross brooms over the doorway, a knife facing down above the doorway that's mounted above the doorway, um, bells, you just all the different kinds of protection stuff, um, mirrors in the windows facing out to keep negative things out. Um, it doesn't necessarily stop all criminals because they're kind of like deadhead mostly. They don't always pick up on that stuff.
Yeah, the problem
But
is
the
that
more you do
yeah,
it, the more likely it is to start to have work on their subconscious. Because basically, people are pretty superstitious. And if they see something that makes them worried, like a pentagram over a door or some other magical symbol or something like that, it often will make them stop what they're doing and turn away because they're worried about the results. So if you know enough about the kind of person it is and what worries them, then you can kind of target your work defensive work.
Sounds like we're talking about kind of random criminal types, though. So,
Well, but random criminals want things easy. They don't
well,
want to.
also they might have a lot of built-in superstition. So, yeah, I'm all for um, two things. Number one, use the superstition against the superstitious people
Yeah.
to keep them out for something like that, for a positive effect to keep them from breaking into something. Absolutely. But also, don't let it become the mistake of thinking that magic is just superstition thing.
Well, right.
You could put an effective force with that, but I'm all for using the superstitious. It keeps people from hassling you and you know.
Like it, like
Well, we got something on our front gate
right.
for pretty much for that reason to hopefully keep my literally crazy sister away.
And it's pretty much worked.
Yeah.
She did come back once just before I got sick, I think, before we left, wasn't it?
But well,
But
anyway,
she only
yeah,
came.
I don't even want to give
Yeah,
energy to
she
talking about that, but we do have
she
something
just
on our
came to
front
get
gate.
her birth
Yeah.
certificate and hasn't been back. So
And this is something Schieffer came up with, and it's not really
it,
magically charged up so much.
oh, it
But
is. But
it looks very
yeah,
magical.
it's the hand, the palm facing outward, and I put planetary symbols and elemental symbols on it, which actually was fun because then I could do the associations
And it's
the
done
right
in
way.
flashing
And
colors,
yes, and red and gold,
green.
um, red and green. And then on the back, I put a pentagram on the back of it, and I made two of them, one for our front door and one for our front gate. And when we first put it up, I watched the mailman not go through the front gate and go all the way around to the side to deliver our mail. That happened for quite a while. Now the mail people are okay with coming into the front, but because it wasn't meant to keep them out from delivering our mail. But I think it works on that level. It's like like a evil eye kind of symbol maybe could work because a lot of people are familiar with
Yeah,
that,
and
and
even
it
if
gives
they
them the
don't, you know,
heebie-jeebies.
a lot of people even if don't even realize they're superstitious might be deterred by a symbol like that from messing with you, you know. Or they might be tempted to throw rocks through your window. When we put this symbol out on our gate, I wasn't sure what would happen, but we haven't had any bad stuff because we have had businesses come into town that had rocks thrown through their windows and things for magic shops and
Well,
magic
yeah,
stores
because
and
they
things. Yeah.
decided they were a threat to their religion and their belief
Yeah.
systems, and they were inviting Satan to come into town. So you don't want to get that far in because then people do they it flips from staying away to attack mode. So yeah, definitely think
So
about
you got
it.
to be careful with that, but yeah, it can be useful, I think, to a certain extent.
And a lot of times people are definitely afraid of people who can do magic because even if they say they don't believe in it, when they need something, we're the ones they come to.
On a little more of on a little more of a little more depth, Barton actually lists several formulas, including one which can will leave a thief paralyzed on the spot if they try to steal something and things like that. But you have to be very advanced to
And you
make
need to
something
be there
function
in
like it.
person in order for it to work,
No,
don't you? You can
no,
just set it up and have it happen if they
that's
try to get
right.
through your
You
door.
can impregnate a room so that
Ah,
if somebody
okay.
enters the room, that's it.
That sounds nice. I
Like
like
you can
that.
even program it so they get scared and feel like they've been shoved back and run away, which is probably the best charging. Or you can paralyze them, or there's a Kabbalistic formula for paralyzing them also. But anyway,
You could also put a note on the door that says this place is protected by witches. And if you walk in uninvited, there will be a curse upon you and your
well,
family that will last for 30 years.
that might work. But then on the other hand, it might go, oh yeah, people might just scoff
Yeah,
at
but
it.
then
You
after
know,
the fact, after they've done it, then bad things happen. They'll lump them together with the idea of the curse.
maybe.
It's possible. I don't know. It's an idea anyway. So Julia says, gives a horrified, what the huh look at the acid dripping at ritual guy, eyes wide. Yep, that was ridiculous. Grumpy Owl says, wouldn't it disrupt the energy you wanted out of the ritual too? Well, yeah, it would, because I'm taking care of some idiot instead of being able to commune with the moon. Eve says, "Hey everyone." Hi, Eve. Marty says, "Not to bring up garlic again, but sick people can't hardly handle the smell of it. Treggy sick." Well, garlic works for some people. Apparently, according to Northern Exposure, wearing garlic around your neck keeps the mosquitoes away.
I guess it works for vampires and it works for mosquitoes too.
That's what,
Vampires won't bite you, so
yeah,
yep,
that's what the character
that's their
thinks.
theory. Yeah.
Yeah, that's her theory. It's like vampires suck your blood and mosquitoes suck your blood, and vampires will leave you alone if you have garlic, so won't it work? It worked for her character anyway, so that was kind of entertaining. Homegrown medicine. But yeah, I remember like things that just because things are good for you doesn't mean that you want them. And I was living with this guy briefly, um, and I got a cold, and I had already told him that I don't do cayenne pepper, and he put some in my chicken soup because he decided I needed it, and he didn't think I would notice. I take one bite of my chicken soup. I'm like, what the hell? There's cayenne in this. So then he confesses. And I'm like, I told you I don't like cayenne. Like, but it's good for you. I don't care. It's not good for me if I don't like it. It's like, that's why we all are different. SL says, hi, Siofra. Hi, Ian. Glad to see you. Hi, SL. We're glad to be back and able to talk and not be coughing. And yay. It's pretty awesome. And get to, connect back with all you guys. So, yes, welcome.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't try and do the channel by myself when Schieffer was so sick. I was like okay enough to have been able to do it, but I don't think I could. I'm not social enough to be able to do this
Maintain a
for that.
conversation for an hour
Yeah,
and a half.
for 20 minutes I could probably do it by myself, but yeah.
I am the social one. It's not that I'm not antisocial because I am.
You're less antisocial. I'm not antisocial. I'm just not harmonious with being social.
Well, I genuinely am interested in what people think and stuff like that, which helps. I'm definitely more of an introvert than an extrovert, but people can't usually tell because I pretend to be extroverted.
Well, it's fine with people too.
Yeah, it helps
You're
with people
you're
you know.
you're great with people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And Beth says, I can't stand when I'm cooking a dish and someone comes around and decides to throw some spice
oh
in.
yeah, how
Oh,
annoying!
no kidding. And it doesn't just happen in cooking. I mean, that happened in a sweat we were in where a participant in the sweat lodge decided to throw their own herbs on the stones. And that was not well received by the sweat leader at all. And, and even like in,
Yeah, that's when somebody needed to take it seriously, and they weren't.
yes,
Not,
they got chewed
they
out
take it
pretty well.
seriously in their own sense, but not in the sense the practitioners
If there's a
thought
leader to the
was
group, it's not your job to
appropriate. Yeah,
start changing things up. That's for
yeah,
sure. That was one of the rainbow guys.
yeah.
I didn't mean anything by it, he says. I'm sure you didn't, but you cannot put stuff on my stones.
There's
Period.
that respect. You didn't know
Yep.
didn't know to have enough respect to not do that.
Grumpy Al says, I meant like his energy. Say he didn't freak out and you didn't know he was tripping. Would the results be different than expected since the rest of you were sober? Oh, I have no idea.
I would say
I would
that
think that they
I
would
would,
be different, though, for him.
unless if he was in harmony the same way with everybody else, then it'd be okay. But I would think that under the circumstances, his energy would be somewhat different and chaotic compared to the other members. So I would say that generally, I would suspect that it would detract from it probably, even if it wasn't physically noticeable, it probably detract from the energy somewhat, I think.
Well, it certainly changed his brain chemistry and made him very paranoid. So I can't, I mean, if he'd been doing something different, if he'd been doing shrooms or pot or something like that, he probably would have been a lot more relaxed and more open. And that might have been, I might not have noticed, but I did notice and he did freak out. And so it did adversely affect
Yeah.
him. And
No,
whether
I think
it
it
would have been
probably,
good for him had
well,
I not been able to notice, I
well,
can't tell.
I,
That's
I
just a
think it probably
speculation.
would have affected the energy in a negative fashion, likely because he just, somebody in that kind of a state is not going to be on the same plane, the
Yeah.
same,
And
you
also, I
know.
get contact highs.
Yeah.
So someone comes into my circle and they're inebriated in one way or another. So am I. We were driving home one night from a party we went to, a dinner, and there were so many people there who were stoned out of their minds. I almost crashed our car when I was parking, and I hadn't had anything at all. And it's like, yeah, contact highs are annoying when you're sensitive sometimes and not willing or ready. But it does help me to tell where people are at. Um, so yeah, I mean, we can speculate all we want about whether it would have been good or not good or whatever, but the facts are what they were. He did, and it wasn't good, and he did disrupt the entire proceedings. So, yeah, but yeah, like defining what your boundaries are and what's okay and what's not okay gives you more control over the environment. I've had a lot of people who are like, it's just too much. It's too strict. There's like no room for expression, or it's like, oh, you got to do it this way. You can't do it another way. And I'm like, if you're trying to build a house, you don't put up a wall.
Well, yeah,
You got to have a foundation. You have to have something solid for it to stand on, and then from there you can decorate and do whatever you want. And I guess it's just a different way of
well,
looking at it.
there's, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. It really is. I mean, if what you're trying to accomplish is build a house, and everybody else is trying to paint a painting, I mean, that's something totally different.
True.
I don't know if that makes any sense the way I said that, but
Well, I certainly have had my share of completely spontaneous magical moments, and but
well, there's nothing
knowing,
wrong with that. But if you're
yeah,
trying
but
to,
knowing what the foundation is allows you to have
well,
spontaneous moments in a crisis situation.
not only that, but if you're talking a group, 8 or 10 people doing totally different things do not contribute to accomplishing the goal.
Yes, this is true.
It's like if 8 or 10 people, trying to build a house, and one person's trying to put up rafters, and the other person's trying to lay a foundation. And
And someone's planting grass.
I mean, people, it's like that in a group ritual. Everybody needs to work together. I mean, some room for expression, but basically, if you're in a group ritual, the group needs to be going along in the direction of the leaders
Well,
leading
if the
it.
whole point is focus,
Otherwise, yeah,
concentration,
otherwise it's not a group ritual. It
and
could be
purpose,
it could be a celebration or a
right,
drum circle or an artistic thing or something.
right.
But you know, there has to be some guidance and leadership and a definite direction if it's supposed to be a ritual to accomplish
Well, if you
anything.
want the energy to be going in the same direction,
Yeah.
absolutely. And usually, if you're doing a ritual, you have a purpose. I mean, unless it is like a celebration, which is different. But even in celebrations, you have some kind of a purpose. There's some kind of underlying focus that you bring to the experience, um,
Yeah.
and so forth, and some basic understanding, some common ground. I think that's one of the reasons for, like, that's why we did a class at one point. I started doing a class on, here's what we do and here's why we do it. Um, and so you all know where we're coming from. So if you're going to be doing this with us, at least you're on our page and not someone else's book. And of course, we still got the people who are afraid of robes or black candles or whatever, come against their own internal superstitions and beliefs and that they haven't dealt with. But yeah.
So
This is mine, right? Yeah. I am green. For the person who was asking about protection stuff for property, I recommend the 5,000 Spells book by Judy Ilke or Ilks. There's a lot of hoodoo stuff in there that can come in use handy. That's what I used for my daughter's place. She has a crazy neighbor. We have rearranged the energy because when I initially did it, it was to protect her from a neighbor across the street. So I protected her entire side of the street. Now she has a neighbor next to her who's gone insane and is attacking them. So they're still behind the same magical barrier that I put up. So I had my granddaughter go and rearrange things and redraw the barricades and like put the barrier between my daughter's house and the crazy person's house. And then the crazy person's house and the grandparents' house is on the other side. She's kind of sandwiched between them. And then erase the magical wall that we put up in the middle so she's available to leave. She doesn't hopefully feel trapped. And as far as I know, since we did that, we haven't had any more incidences with her, but who knows how long that'll last because she's got some brain damage, actual brain damage. She had brain surgery. And that's the thing is like, depending on what you're dealing with, some things work better than others. Some things don't work at all. Okay, we got like 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
So they must have something they want to
talk about that's not related to being sick all the time. I'm ready for some questions. Keep me focused. I know you guys are thinking. Send them in. We'll get 5 all at once. Did you guys have any kind of Beltane celebrations while we were out? Since Beltane just happened? SL says, is having a daily practice important?
It is to me.
Yeah. A daily practice is a way of reinforcing what you're learning and also gets you in the habit of thinking along those lines on a daily basis. It's sort of rewriting your brain chemistry and brain waves and stuff like that. And it is, with a daily practice, it makes it a lot easier to succeed at that and to see things when they come up and are causing problems. And it doesn't have to be something major. It can be something pretty simple. Grumpy Owl says, I freeze when trying to think of a question. Julia says, hypothetical question pertaining to protection. What about a situation where someone has been cursed, hexed, attacked, what have you, and part of the attack is that you basically disarm the target. So their protection and magic is undermined so that they are unable to defend themselves or have success in any magic workings, amongst others. Sounds like a binding kind of a thing, binding their power, which is something that you can do something about and stop from happening. Yeah, that kind of stuff only works if there's a good reason that the universe will allow it to happen, that they are actually a danger to themselves or others. And if it's just some malicious attack on behalf of someone else, then sending it back to the sender will get rid of it and will work to reactivate the magical abilities of the person who has had that happen to them. I mean, when it comes to that kind of stuff, the victim and this has to cooperate with the accuser um, on all different levels. And if on a subconscious level they believe that this needs to happen to them, then they'll undermine their own ability and their own authority. But if they know that this is not fair and they haven't done anything to deserve it, then it can be undone. No one can actually take your magic away from you permanently, no matter how powerful they think they are, unless you let them, because you have the authority, the only ultimate authority on what you can do and what you can't do. So the belief in the curse and the hex um, is the first thing that needs to be undermined, or at least encouraging the belief in the self, and that the self has the power and the energy and the wherewithal to be able to defeat whatever energy is coming at them, and then redirecting the energy coming at them back to the person who's sending it, who is the person who needs to have that happen to them if they are doing something untoward. Um, yeah, I mean, magic is in our blood, it's in our being, it's a part of our spirit, part of our nature, and no one can actually take it away. Not really. And if they think that it has and they want to get it back, then starting off with the basics is a way to go, like going out into nature, sitting in nature, connecting to the planet. Because how big is the earth, right? It's everywhere. It's in everything, around everything, and it is the source of magic. It's not us individually, it's the whole biosphere that we're a part of. And the spiritual energies and so forth that are associated with it and whatnot. So thinking that it can be taken away or lost is the wrong approach to take. And giving someone else the power to do that to you is also the wrong approach to take. I know it's hard for a lot of people, and but you can't let someone take your power and get away with it. So yeah, that is what I would say, at least from what you've said to me. SL says, I missed Beltane. Yeah, me too. I noticed it happened. Sundrop says, what do you think about signs saying this house is protected by spirits to deter burglars? I just thought of some creations. Ha! I don't see any reason why not. And it could work. I mean, and if you are protected by spirits, then more the merrier. I have a feeling that my sister's house in Virginia, which has got a number of ghosts, the one of whom is the person who built the house, and are very active from time to time. A burglar or someone like that going into her house would have something rather untoward happen to them if they went in. And I remember lately seeing a sign that said something about don't pick up hitchhikers on this highway. This highway is haunted.
Oh yeah.
Which I thought was pretty cool. So, um, if they stop to read it, even if they on a conscious level don't believe it, it gets straight into the unconscious and it might make them think twice. It's not going to invite people to come in, I don't think. I mean, do they see this as a challenge? Oh, yeah, you think that your house is protected by spirits? I'm going to go in there and prove you wrong. Go to jail. That's what I say. Also, get, cameras. It's always good to have video evidence if you can have it. We have technology now, so why not?
Yep.
Use everything mundane as well as magical and psychological if you can. But yeah, our belief in these things is one of the things that powers them, and people's fear of these things is one thing that also powers them. So Joy says, how do you know you are working with a deity or a parasite disguised as a deity? Interesting. Well, for one thing, a deity is not going to act like a parasite. A parasite is going to be something that's going to be draining to you, taking things away from you, using up your energy. A deity is willing to work with you and will often empower you and make you stronger, but will not make you weaker. So I would go by the actions and the results. And if it is a quote unquote deity that makes you weaker, then they're not a good one to work with. And I would say, go away and leave me alone. I'm not interested in having this as a relationship. But it's like anything else. You know, uh, believe the results. So regardless of what either a thought form, a parasite, a spirit, an entity, a god, goddess might say that they are, take their actions and the results of your interactions with them um, as reality. Psychopaths, in general, will broadcast exactly what they plan to do to you and exactly who they are. They'll say it out loud. I would imagine a parasitic organism would be similar to psychopath in that they, um, and if whatever it is trying to make you do something you don't want to do, then that's not something you should work with. So just use common sense when it comes to, it doesn't matter whether it's a deity or a parasite in the end. If it works badly and causes harm to you, don't work with it because spirits can lie. That's not a true thing. We used to think that if you're using telepathy, that there's no secrets. It's not true. People who use telepathy can lie too.
Well, and another thing, deity in general is going to be more abstractish. Um, and it's not going to be so specific, like, oh, you should do this or do that. That'll, does that make any sense? Deity is going to be more abstract and less physical, whereas a parasitic type of being will try to get you to do whatever um, gets them more energy from you to feed
Right.
off you, that kind of thing. So very specific things, whereas a deity will generally be more general, like be kind to people versus go over here and hit Bob over the head with a stick. So more general and
And
just a general
Joy
principle.
asked, do they both want offerings? Well, some gods don't care about offerings at all. I mean, really, when it comes to working with a deity, it's like you're trying to make the environment pleasing to them and to you so that you have a place to meet, just like with any kind of a spirit being. When it comes to that, and offerings are basically that. It's like if you know what the spirit likes, and you make an offering, you're saying, "Hey, I'm welcoming you to this space. I hear that you like cheese balls, so here's a bunch of cheese balls. I'm going to put them on the altar for you, and they're for you, because I'd like to work with you." And so it can be as simple as that. And like Ian said, with a parasite, they're going to want to get a lot more than just some basic kind of
Yeah,
acknowledgement of their existence. They're going to really be working the whole you're above you, you have to do what I say. It's sort of like joining a cult. A parasite would be more like a cult leader,
yeah,
which they are parasites, so they're a good real world example. You have to follow what they say, do what they say. You're not allowed to question their instructions. Um, Gods aren't going to care if you don't
yeah. In
want to do
my
what they
experience,
say. They're like, okay, fine, go find somebody else
the
to work with.
the Bible aside, in most cases, and in some cases there are a few, like the Santeria deities are very specific. There's a whole pantheon of them, but that's kind of a little bit of an exception in general too. But in that case, you kind of have to go by their rules, but then they go by their rules also. That's
Right, it's a mutual agreed upon
yeah,
set of rules.
which is also generally not something a
And you're
parasite
getting
being
into
won't
it up front.
necessarily. Yeah,
It's like you got eyes wide open when you go into a relationship with a Santeria deity.
yeah, it's
Um,
all laid out. You know
yeah,
exactly what you're getting and
and
what
if you
to
don't
be.
do certain things, you
Yeah,
know what's going to happen. I mean, it's just sort of like it's like an agreement. Um, So SL says, sometimes I feel energies affect me, but I can't really determine whether their influences are good or bad. Do you have any tips that could help me to know how? Okay, your main tip is knowing yourself and defining what is okay and what is not okay with you. You don't need to know whether the influences are good or bad as like an overall picture. You only need to know whether it's good or bad for you and whether you want it or not. And so we can leave that idea of interpretation of whether something is a good or bad influence aside and just look at your specific situation and your specific needs and wants and where you're at.
Yeah, and generally, something that's the things will. I find they're like anything else in life. Some things are unpleasant, some things are pleasant. I love hot, spicy food. Schieffer doesn't like hot, spicy food at all. Um, and it's kind of like that. If the energy feels good to you, it probably is, as long as they're not.
Coercive.
The exception would be a being that might be trying to um, evoke like a larva, who might be trying to evoke something like sexual issues or something that feeds the larva.
Right.
But aside from something like that, that might make you feel good short term to, you know, but in general, you can get a feel for the beings and for the energies, whether they feel pleasant or unpleasant. And yeah, I generally go with your feelings and trust those until you become clairvoyant enough, because,
Well, you have to
you know,
decide for yourself what your path is,
yeah,
and that's just one more opportunity for you to define it. And you need to take those opportunities. That's how you claim your power. Julia said, "Oh, thank you so much, Siofra. I've pondered how to handle a block situation like that for a while, since I hear so much about people throwing stuff around and wondered the best route to handling it." Good. I'm glad. Julia adds, "I would add to the distinction between lying spirits, entities, and actual deities, etc., is to recognize in their presence that you have the ability and the right to refuse entertaining false spirits." Yeah, and absolutely.
yeah, you can refuse good ones too.
Yeah, it doesn't
So,
matter whether they're good or bad. If you don't want
you
to have
have
them
that.
around, you can say, "Go away, leave me alone."
Yeah,
And the no has the power when it comes to, your personal authority. If you say no, they have to comply. If you know that you know.
you have to know and trust. You have to know that you have magical authority and trust that
In order to use
and
it.
have the right understanding of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So
But then if they know that you know, then save you a lot of hassles.
I have a pretty good BS detector for either people or spirits. And, if somebody says or does something that is definitely what I would consider crossing a boundary that I've made clear, then they're not someone I'm interested in having anything to do with. And that's one of the reasons why I watch a lot of shows about cults, so I can see when that is, how they're doing it. Joy says, "Thanks, good." Beth says, "Catch me up, y'all. I had to check on my grandson." SL says, "Thank you, Shifa and Ian. That's really good advice." And that's the thing, is like, this is your own path. This is not my path or Ian's path. We're here to share with you what we've done on our path, and how we've made some of the decisions that we've made when we know what they are. But it's up to you to decide what you're going to focus on, which way you're going to go, and how you're going to define yourself. If you don't like who you are, you change yourself. You're not stuck with who you are. There's no such thing as this is just the way I am. Being the way you are is a choice. And if you don't like that choice, you can make other choices. It takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of effort. It's not simple or easy. It doesn't happen overnight, but it can be done, and you're the only one who can do it. So, developing your own relationship with the universe, that's what magic is about. It's about connecting with that energy that's around you in a way that's helpful for you, as well as helpful for the general good, of the energy of the earth and everything else that's going on. And so the individual choices, specifics, are not as important in the overall sense as it is what you're doing. You're doing something because you've decided this is the thing you want to do, and you're following that path and that urging. And there's no one out there who's smarter, greater, more knowledgeable, more powerful, more wondrous, more all enlightened, or whatever, that can really tell you how to be yourself. Only you can do that. And and that's what I want. I want for everyone to be themselves. And I'm sorry, it's just not like an instant formula. Um, and I could give you, like, 10 key things to start your life off with and keep on going, and everything will be great. Life is full of challenges and lots of unexpected experiences and so forth. And it's how we navigate that and how we respond to it that determines what kind of a person we are, as well as what kind of a magical being, witch or pagan or whatever it is. So, looks like we're up on our time. Julia says, Beth, Siofra and Ian just figured out how to win the lottery jackpot and sent that out to every one of us, but those not listening, watching, totally innocent look, like for real.
That's right. And we'll tell you when we win.
Alrighty then. Too bad I wasn't in on that conversation. Grumpy Alice says, have a great day, everyone. Blessed be. Beth says, that's beautiful, Siofra. I am happily embracing the crone stage. There's no more to prove, just keeping life simple and loving Mother Earth and the people I've allowed in my world. Awesome. And Beth says it, Julia, yay. Ruth says, bye all. I'm so glad to be back. Yeah. Yay. And don't forget, you can send me an email at shifersmagicalcove@gmail.com. And I've started doing Reiki again. So if you want a distance Reiki session, send me a message through Facebook or to Shifer Bradigan or through my email, and we can make arrangements. Ruth says, bye all. Erin says, bye. SL says, yes, that's what I guess I worried about when I sense energies. I don't want to come under some unknown influence that affects my decisions without me knowing. Yes, be on alert. Absolutely. Okay, guys. Blessed be everybody. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.